Hello guys, in this video we're going to be doing President Joe Biden versus Governor Glenn Youngkin of the state of Virginia. Now, Glenn Youngkin's probably one of those contenders for the 2024 Republican primaries. Now it's going to be a lot more competitive, that primary. Even if Trump does run, Trump has been taking pot shots at Youngkin and DeSantis just nonstop, and that's not really going to sit that well with Republican primary voters. I think Trump's base in the primary is definitely going to get smaller and smaller as we go on through the days. So that's something to keep your eye on. So let's get right into this prediction. I do think Iowa is, no matter what, going to go to Republican by over 10 in 2024. I don't think Biden's going to invest that much effort into winning Iowa, especially because of how Democrats fared in Iowa this election. They lost pretty much everything here. Lost the governor's race, the Senate race, all their House races they've lost. Iowa's kind of a lost cause. Texas, Glenn Youngkin's kind of the best type of Republican to win over Texas by over 10%. I mean, he could pick Abbott as a running mate, but I doubt it. I think he would rather pick Brian Kemp, and that's probably going to factor in this decision. But Texas, I still think would vote for Youngkin by over 10. It'll be kind of similar to Abbott in some ways. Florida over 10 because it's kind of just a safe red state at this point. I don't think Democrats are really going to be competitive in this state anymore nowadays. While the state of North Carolina, honestly, probably go to Youngkin just barely over 5%, a 5.5% victory margin. The state of Georgia, now that we're on the South, I do think Brian Kemp would probably be Glenn Youngkin's running mate, and I do think that would help him get just over the line against Joe Biden to beat him by a tilt margin, because there is a lot of Democratic trends in the state of Georgia. It is getting more and more Democratic over time, but Youngkin will be able to squeeze out a very narrow victory in this state. While the state of Colorado and New Mexico probably would vote for Biden by over 10. Colorado and New Mexico, I would say it'd go down to a 4% margin or even 3%, just because Glenn Youngkin didn't do that bad with Latinos in the state of Virginia. I think he even was competitive with them or narrowly won them in the state. I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to look at the exit polls on that one. But Arizona and Nevada. I totally think he would win Nevada, but I'll come back to Arizona at the end of the video. Let's head to Ohio. Ohio, I think Youngkin would underperform Trump a bit with populist voters, which is why it's not safe Republican. It'll probably be only a 6 to 5%. I would say 6% victory is pretty fair for Youngkin in the state of Ohio. While Nebraska's second, it could see narrowly swing towards Youngkin's way. And the Rust Belt states. We'll come back to that one after New England. Maine, I think it would get a little bit more competitive. Well, Glenn Youngkin wins Maine second by a decent margin. New Hampshire, though, still Glenn Youngkin governs like a more establishment Republican, but I still think New Hampshire has a pretty heavy Democratic lean, and I still think it would narrowly side with Biden over Youngkin in this state. Minnesota, still think it would be a likely margin for Biden, but just barely a 5.5% win here for Joe Biden, because they kind of do tend to like more establishment Republicans who are not as extreme, even though he's not populist by any means. But Trump did lose the state by a lot, and he was a populist, so Minnesota doesn't really seem to be a populist-friendly state. That's my analysis on that one. But these last three states, I still think Biden would win Michigan by a 1.5% or even 2% margin against Glenn Youngkin, because Glenn Youngkin is anti-union, which is kind of a killer in these Rust Belt states. It really will hurt him, especially in a state like Pennsylvania. Biden would narrowly win it over Glenn Youngkin, even though he does appeal well to independent voters. Even Glenn Youngkin's home state of Virginia, I'd still think, just due to the national environment, it would still go with Joe Biden by like a 3% margin. But Glenn Youngkin will have a pretty good performance in the state of Virginia. And the next few states. Wisconsin and Arizona. I'm going to go with this prediction. I do think Biden would be able to narrowly win Wisconsin over Glenn Youngkin, just because Glenn Youngkin isn't as populist as other Republican candidates. However, he could do very well with independent voters in the state, but his anti-union stances and his pretty much anti-populist policies, it's not going to cut it for a win in Wisconsin for him. However, he will probably get a narrow victory in Arizona just with moderate Republicans in that state. But Arizona is trending Democratic, so Biden could theoretically really win this and win the election. But this is just how I see the map so far. So it's an electoral tie between Youngkin and Joe Biden. So if Biden could win Nebraska second, he could break this tie. But yeah, this is just where I see the prediction between Youngkin and Biden. Let me know what you think of this prediction in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.